Well, welcome back to Mr. Obsolete's Vintage Homesteading. Today we're over at Mr. C Senior's cutting up that 145-foot long tree, and so we'll show you some pictures of it here shortly. But started on the small end with a little Stihl 025 and a little homeowner saw, light duty stuff. So we'll show you some of the cutting on that, and when I come back I'll talk about the likes and don't likes of the saw. Okay, well, we're going to start at the small end of the tree, and there used to be a big branch right here, so this is kind of holding this up. And so I'm going to come over and cut on the far side of it. I think I'll have to cut from the bottom side up there. But anyway, what we're going to be using is the small end of the tree. We're going to use a small Mr. Toby saw. So anyway, I'll get my safety gear on and saw warmed up and be right back. Well, our little 025 here, you can see it's got reasonably good power, but it's, you know, not what I'm used to. I'm used to old torquers, and this has higher RPM, but it doesn't have much torque, and so it's easy to stall out when cutting. This tree is pretty hard to cut, but you know, these are ideal for like, you know, small 6 to 8 inch wood for firewood and stuff like that. Works ideal. This is a little bit too much for it, so I'm going to cut this one up. I'll be using my 031. Well, one of the limitations on this saw actually is the horsepower rating on it, because Stihl said 3 horsepower. I call BS. One place I saw said 2.6 horsepower, and I think that's really more realistic. And I'll talk about it here in a bit when I show our next saw. But anyway, it's lightweight, handy to use, easy starting. Now, the other thing that these saws have against them is it has a non-adjustable main jet on the carburetor, so if you're running them hard in hot weather, dull chain or something like that, there's a good chance you're going to burn up the top end of the saw. And the other one, altitude, can adjust for that, so higher elevations these things won't hardly run. So anyway, got an 18-inch bar. And the other thing I don't like is 325 chain. Cuts nice and clean, but it doesn't cut that good. But it's hard for me to use these little saws because I'm used to torquers, and this is a high RPM saw with minimum torque, and so if you get in a hard cut or a knot like that, it slows it down or stalls it pretty easy. But like I say, if it's used in a proper way and stuff, it's a really good deal. So we'll move on to the next. Okay, well, we're back. Now we've got the 031. So this wood is probably about 14 inches in diameter. Anyway, let's see if this got better power for cutting through this. I can get my ears on here and light it off. You can see that saw has a whole lot more power and torque, but still not a real torquer. But I'll roll this over and finish cutting it. There's something stuck in the ground pretty hard. Must be about an old branch or something. Well, I'll come back and cut it in shorter pieces and see what happens here. pretty hard there somewhere. Yeah. This is off the ground, so get it cut that way. Be getting low on gas. We'll be back. Well, the next saw we used for a little bit bigger wood is our Stihl 031. This one is 48 cc's or 2.93 cubic inches. Weighs 14.5 pounds without the bar and chain. It's got an 18-inch bar on it too. Has a 3/8 low profile chain. And it was made from 1971 to 82, a very popular saw. Amazing thing is you can't buy any parts from Stihl for it, like a gas cap or starter parts, which I had to find for it. But anyway, it'll rev at 12.5 wide open and cuts at 8,500. And this one was rated at 3.15 horsepower, 3.15. And compared to the 025, it's like night and day. This thing has huge amount of power and torque both compared to the other saw. So if you're doing heavier firewood cutting and heavier brushing, things like that, and heating with firewood, this is a much better saw. Like I say, each one has its distinct use. So we'll be back and show you some pictures of it cutting. Well, you can see the little saw is working pretty hard on this stuff. And the saw was donated to us some time back by Mr. Randy and his brother Paul. Needed some parts, and it's amazing you can't buy parts from Stihl for this saw, but I found enough parts to fix it. Works great. So hopefully Randy and Paul are watching.